Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of the Limsa Lominsa storyline. I am so glad that you're joining me today, and without further ado, let's get started, shall we? We rush in to aid them and learn that Severn decided to try and save his friends despite leading them into the trap in the first place. We learn that he was once one of them, but has deserted them. They were willing to overlook his betrayal if he provided replacements. However, because he tried to save his friends, the debt remains unpaid, and he has betrayed the Serpent Reavers twice and will not get a chance to do it a third time. They attempt to engage us, but before doing so, they hear the voice of a man, and soon after, a clay golem comes to life. Quickly, we slay the clay golem before it can do harm to anyone. The masked mage remarks that we are no ordinary adventurer before disappearing. Y'shtola says that she's happy we are safe, and we have a flashback of Y'shtola strolling around Limsa, eavesdropping on some pirates talking about Lominsan factions and how the pirates don't belong to any of them. We then see Y'shtola talking about how the seas have begun to rise as a side effect of Dalamud. We come back to see that Y'shtola is helping Severn and making sure he is okay enough to make it back to the farms. Y'shtola then tells someone that he got away and she will inform the Commodore. She then turns to us and tells us we collapsed from exertion and asks if we are okay. Apparently, while we were out, Severn told her all that transpired, which sheds some light upon how we came under attack by the golem. She tells us that she will escort Severn back to the farms and properly introduces herself as Y'shtola. She is a naturalist of sorts and is surveying the aether in hopes it might help with the current issues. Severn tells us that he is grateful for not only saving his life but the life of his crew as well. He knows it's a debt he cannot repay, but he won't run away. Severn tells us that he has heard of what transpired by the few that made it back and Y'shtola. Severn tells him that he is the one to blame for all that happened with the Serpent Reavers. Severn comments that they are a thrall to the Sahagin, going as far as to say they may look and act like pirates, but they are not but fishback flunkies. Severn tells us that the Serpent Reavers started kidnapping people a few years back, and right after he joined them, their leader swore allegiance to the Sahagin, so he ran away, got himself a new name and home here in Summerford Farms. Somehow his secret got out, and his old crewmates found him. The Reavers offered him a way out if he would bring more people to take his place. He says he wasn't thinking and was too busy trying to cover his own behind. Severn says that in the end, when it mattered most, he went against them and gave his life to save their life. Severn tells us he plans to hand himself over to the Yellow Jackets, and Severn agrees that it is the best thing he can do, but he hopes one day he'll come back to Summerford Farms, as there will always be a place for him. Severn tells Severn that he will always be in his debt. Severn asks us if we can talk to Baderon about what's happened from start to finish. He hopes he can put a good word in for Severn. We quickly head back to Limsa and speak with Baderon, and he tells us that life on the farm isn't quite what he thought. He tells us that the person in charge of handing out the punishments is a good friend of his, and he will ask him nice to loosen up the sentence. He is happy we did everything that Severn asked us, and is even more happy about the finder's fee that he got in the process. Go figure. For our next job, he sends us back to Woad Whisper Canyon, where there are people that haul cargo up cliff faces and are in need of someone to pick up the odd jobs. We find Vorkerhit and let him know that we were sent by Baderon. He tells us to consider ourselves welcome to the Skylift. He tells us the cliff was caused by a dragon, no doubt Bahamut. He has sent a courier away with all the cargo, so it is up to us to complete the delivery. We first deliver a package to Singithuv at the foremast, and one to Jessamine in D. Neville checkpoint. When we return to Vorkahit, he tells us that the wagon driver has returned after a millicorn seedling came out of his cargo and he chucked it out of his cargo before leaving. Vorkahit tells us to go recover the seedling and finish the delivery to Swiftperch in western Lenosa. Upon finding the seedling, we run into two shore slugs who we quickly take care of before taking the seedling to Swiftperch. There we meet with Lyloof, who ordered the millicorn seedling. He asks us to stay a bit and help the settlement out. He explains that the calamity took from him his father and destroyed his home and scorched the fields, and for a while crushed him and his hopes and dreams. One day, while looking through his father's journal, he learned that his dad had hidden his earthly possessions in a place that was once a bustling neighborhood. The problem is the area is now crawling with bandits and wild jackals, so he wants us to go find the casket his father buried. We find the item and return it to Lyloof, and we find out his father's wealth is but a fistful of wheat seeds. That's when Lyloof remembers that his family used to grow a type of wheat that could take root in barren soils of western Lenosa. Nearby, a yellow jacket named Freyloaf wants our attention. When talking with him, we learn that the viewer's beacon seems dim and weak, and he wants us to go take a look at what's going on. When we talk to the man who works at the beacon, he tells us the bomb that fuels the furnace has wandered off, and if it's not fixed soon, there will be trouble in the water. They send us to go capture a bomb claw and bring it back to them. We head back to Freyloaf to inform him that the bomb and the holder for it are both damaged. Freyloaf tells us that he would appreciate it if we went to the Armorers Guild in Limsa to explain the situation. We travel back to Limsa and speak with the Armorers Guild Master, Hanaza. She tells us she will have an artisan visit the lighthouse to reinforce the casting of the furnace. She then, of course, has some work that she needs done and wants to recruit us for help. Our job is to deliver a missive to Otbrim, the head of the shipwright at Morbay Docks. When we reach Otbrim, we hand over the missive containing the information about the materials that were ordered. Unfortunately, there is another delay in cargo as there is a huge shortage of skilled artisans. He apologizes about taking his frustrations out on us, and we do not deserve to bear the brunt of it. He tells us the ship behind him is named Victory and will be the first new vessel to be made since the calamity. The ship is a symbol of Limsa Lominsa's rebirth from the wreckage. That is why he works swiftly to get the ship built as fast as possible. He lets us know that if we aren't planning to leave anytime soon, he has plenty of hard work for us. Otbrim tells us that he sent a young man named Frillsmid to retrieve crates of supplies ordered from Limsa, but hasn't returned yet. He has sent missives to a man named Halbreda, who he somewhat doubts the man is telling the whole truth. Since he can't leave his post, he asks us to go investigate in his stead. We head over to God's Grip and speak with Halbreda, who says that he's never told us anything less than the truth. We show him our doubt and tell him he's at risk of being sent to Turtleback Island. He swears to us he does not know of Frillsmid or the precious supplies. He then sends us to check out a survivor's wreck of cargo ship over in Saltstrand. He says we may find Frillsmid there ourselves. So we head off to check out this wreckage, and on the way we run into Frillsmid, who tells us he cannot go back until he rights the wrong he caused. 2 nights ago he made a trip from the dry docks to Candlekeep Quay. The captain of the ship was worried about bringing the ship close to the cliffs, as the seas were particularly rough, so he paid a fisher some money to take him out to meet the captain. Unfortunately, the seas only got worse on the way back, and the boat was flung into the shore. When he awoke, the cargo was scattered across the shore, and he attempted to salvage it, but the area is crawling with Quirin, and he isn't much of a fighter. Of course, we head out to get this lost cargo and fight any Quirin on the way. When we return to him, he thanks us and tells us that he will return to the shipyard after he pays respects to the widow and the fisher who took him out to sea. When talking to Otbrim, he is relieved to hear that Frillsmid and the supplies are unharmed, though he thinks it's foolish that Frillsmid thought that he'd be in trouble for circumstances that are out of his control. Otbrim is troubled by the fact that there was no storm that day, and that the sea trouble in Candlekeep Quay were caused by the Sahagin, who are known to be able to conjure the seas. Gim Thada, the head of the watch at the dry docks, believes pirates are planning to attack on the Victory, and he has recommended us to help her out. Meeting Gim Thada, she tells us she isn't surprised Otbrim recommended us to her, as she has had her men watching us to make sure we aren't up to any trouble. She tells us nothing incriminating was found, and we appear to be a model citizen. The fact that the foreman thinks highly of us is actually impressive, since the man doesn't even trust his own mother. Gimthada wants us to travel to confront the suspicious men hanging around near the area. When we head over there, we are immediately threatened by the pirates, as they have had enough with our type roaming the hills like it's our right. They can't even enjoy a mug of rum without an outlander running up and asking for directions. He comments that once he has his boy back, he's putting this place behind him before telling his men that they're leaving and they have knives to sharpen. We go back to Gimthada and tell her of what we've heard, and she becomes confused by the mention of getting his boy back. She says she will increase patrol and thanks us for our help. She mentions she's concerned how they creep closer to the dry docks and assumes their target is the Victory. The ship is the symbol of everything Limsa Lominsa strives to become, and she will not allow them to lay a single finger upon her hull. It seems the guards have submitted reports of suspicious activity in the area, and she wants us to investigate it firsthand. She wants us to talk to either Ursvit or Nongo. Leaving from the rear, we talk to Nongo, and she tells us more information about our suspicious person at the cliff near Empty Heart. So we head to the area and confront the sailor. He tells us that even though we've spotted him, we're too late, and they've already come to attack the area. So quickly we hurry back to inform Gimthada, but it's too late. We are interrupted by a guard telling us that the attack has begun, and we head to the Victory, taking down any pirates that get in our way. We confront the head pirate, who is the same guy that yelled at us earlier. He comments that he never thought taking over would be this easy, and that his slimy friends came in handy. No doubt that he means Sahagin. Maybe even more surprisingly, Otbrim calls the man Dad and asks him what he's doing and calls him a fool. He responds telling him to shut his trap, and it will all be over once they blow the ship up into a pile of driftwood. He says he'll do whatever it takes to knock sense into his treacherous, backstabbing son. Gimthada is taken aback and realizing now why Otbrim never spoke of his father. Otbrim tells us to beat the tar out of him and make sure no harm comes to the Victory. We are more than happy to defeat him. After our victory, he comments that he must be getting old to let an adventurer beat him. Before he's hauled away, you hear he comments that the ship is big and nasty looking, almost as if he's proud of his son for making it. Once things calm down, we speak with Otbrim, and he thanks us for helping and says he needs time to think about things, since his dad has always had a way of turning his life upside down. He wants us to convey his thanks and apologies to Grimthada as well. Grimthada thanks us for our help and says without us, victory may not have been assured, and we played a major role in this whole ordeal. She understands why Oberyn feels responsible, but she knows in time he will realize the only way to move on is to finish the victory. She also tells us that while the attack was happening, they uncovered an unusual item, a missive that was found among personal effects of the pirates, and would like us to deliver it to Baderon back in Limsa. Returning to Baderon, he tells us that he's already heard much about our deeds and the dry docks. We tell him we need a message deciphered that's written in another language. Turns out Baderon knows about the Sahagin speak and tells us that the attack on the Victory was carried out faster than planned, most likely due to our poking around in their business. It seems the Victory attack was meant to be a distraction to the real issue. They intend to attack somewhere in western Noscea, and Baderon theorizes that it might be Swiftperch. Baderon sends us off to Commodore Rayner at Coral Tower with the deciphered message. When talking to Rayner, he tells us we must be the adventurer who everyone has been speaking about. We hand over the deciphered message. He is shocked by the message about Swiftperch and tells us that he will take proper precautions even though there has been no sign of an attack, and will marshal the Yellowjackets for battle immediately. The only problem is Swiftperch is one of several possible targets they could attack. We are interrupted by a Yellowjacket informing us that the Sahagin have mounted a large-scale assault on South Tidegate and could overwhelm their defenses within a day, thus requesting immediate backup. Rayner tells him to send the troops off to aid them at South Tidegate. He does consider this to be another possible distraction, and wishes the warriors of light yet walked among them to help. But since they are not with us, he asks us to help serve in their absence and head to Swiftperch and lend our strength to the squads there to send and defend the settlement. And that's it for part 2 of the storyline. Tune in for next week where we'll cover part 3, the finale of the Limsa Lominsa storyline. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.